That doesn't mean that things can't change, though. The feeling of being trapped does not necessarily mean that you actually are. That's why you are reading this book. I followed the path. I ticked all the boxes. I got good grades at school, not through natural academic talent, but through a combination of hard work, good role models, and happening to fall into the right demographic categories. I applied to university because that was what you do. I went to university and again, I worked hard to do well and was expected to do well. I started to see life as a game you had to play, and I wanted to win, or, more importantly, I didn't want to lose. The fear of failure can be equally as good of an incentive as the pressure of success, as can wanting to prove your naysayers wrong. To do well at the game of life, you follow the preordained path. Step 1. You get good grades at school and get into university. Step 2. You get good grades at university, and then you do some extracurricular activities and get an internship, because the combination of the above is how you get a job. Step 3. You apply to 30 different jobs and you get rejected from 29 of them. When one says yes, you don't hesitate. You say, "Thank you very much," and seal it with a virtual handshake. You start to earn a salary. Step 4. If all goes well, as you and everyone else expect it to, then you get a small pay rise or promotion after a year or two. You are now able to rent a slightly nicer flat that finally looks better maintained than your student house. You may even get a new job with a different company within the same industry. Step 5. Eventually, you earn enough to buy your first home, probably when you have a partner who also has a reasonable salary so that you can split the deposit. You move in, hopefully coupled with a promotion at work to make the mortgage a little easier. And so life goes on. True. No one might have laid it out in quite such precise terms, but they never really needed to because you already knew that this was the case, that this was what life was going to look like. If you played the game as you should have, then you would be successful and live happily ever after. This model of life is black and white. It leaves no room for shades of grey. It might allow small deviances such as inserting Step 1B, a gap year, but that's about it. Once you start work in your first adult job, there are no professional shades of grey. Very occasionally, an acquaintance of yours or your sister's boyfriend's second cousin's neighbour might change career, but it is always someone else, and it is relatively risk-free, from one safe job to another, perhaps with a small amount of retraining. They will sure as hell know that there will be a secure job waiting for them on the other side. Hypothetically, we know that having more than one career across our working lives is not unusual. There are plenty of reports that we will change careers at least 5 times. That knowledge doesn't always provide comfort, however, as it still feels abstract and unobtainable, particularly if you are without role models who are only a phone call away. You have made a mistake in your career choice once before. How do you know you won't make the same mistake twice, possibly putting you in an even worse position than you are in now? Forever a good girl, I didn't consider anything other than a traditional career path, intending on choosing one direction and sticking with it until the very end. I followed the game to the letter. I got to around Step 4 and was doing well. I got my bachelor's degree and then won a scholarship to study for my master's. I had what I thought was my dream job. I then managed to get a job offer on a competitive public sector graduate scheme. This was a job that made sense. It led straight on from my degrees. It would set me up for life. I would be able to help people and make our country a better place, one little step at a time. That's all I really wanted to do, help people. Idealistic and naive, absolutely, but if you aren't able to be those things when you are 22, then when? I was dealt a lucky hand at birth. Statistically speaking, I was more likely than most to win at life's game before I'd even learnt to crawl. I was born into a white middle-class family in a Greater London suburb. Both my parents are still happily married to each other. They both had well-paid jobs while I was growing up. They provided me with a stable, supportive and loving home life and were able to send me to a good school. The path had been paved for me to have all the opportunities possible so that I could have the best possible chance of winning too. Joining the public sector was my way of giving back to those who hadn't been as lucky through no fault of their own. I wanted other people not to have to be so dependent on being